Welcome back to the Shred the Spread podcast. This is our week 2 best bets episode for the season long contest. As you've noticed by now, this is an audio only episode. It is only myself, and as you can tell by the timestamp, this is an extremely short episode. I will be giving our 5 best picks against the spread, as well as our survivor pick for the week. You can also notice that Dynell is not here. That is due to our producer, our editor, not only not having internet, but not having able and access to edit the podcast. So instead of just posting the picks as we do on Twitter when we run into these circumstances sometimes, you will get the audio podcast. Make sure follow us on X at @shredthespread_ for any up to date. And basically, if anything happens like this in the future, you will be notified. So, without further ado, let me get right into the picks. So, Dynell and I have behind the scenes kind of discussed this for a little bit. And if you guys like chalk, this is the week for you. There are a lot of large numbers this week. Some overreaction to week 1, some people trying to find the favorites that are going to find their footing. Obviously, we've saw some injury news dictate some of these lines. However, our lines do lock on Tuesday. On the video episode that was our preview, you saw all the lines that were posted at the bottom. However, at the time of the recording, Dynell and I did not have the physical lines to discuss with you guys on the podcast. So we went through the lines as if we were playing off of a book, and we used FanDuel as an example. So Dynell and I are in a DraftKings picks against the spread contest for this season. This is week 2. The first week, unfortunately, we went 2-3, so we're looking to bounce back. We have 5 picks. The first of our choices, we have the Dallas Cowboys at home versus the New Orleans Saints. We have them at -6.5 in the contest. Dynell and I basically love the spot for 2 reasons. One, the Cowboys looked really good in the first half last week against the Browns. They kind of took their foot off the gas. But number 2, we think Derek Carr may have had his best career game. I mean, the guy was just making deep passes. When have we ever seen the Saints complete a deep ball? I mean, Rashid Shaheed has kind of been the only guy, go route. However, the Saints connected on a few. They were facing the Panthers, which probably is the second worst secondary behind the Commanders in the NFL. But truthfully, do we think this is a really good spot for the Cowboys? Dak just got paid. CeeDee Lamb just got paid. I mean, I can already see it. Dak connects to CeeDee Lamb for the first touchdown of the game. Jerry Jones is smiling because he just dropped the checkbook off for these guys. I see the Cowboys having a huge game in their home opener. Give us the Cowboys -6.5. Moving on, another 1 o'clock game. We are selecting the 49ers on the road -5.5 against the Vikings. This line is actually down to 4.5 in a lot of books. So we have them at 5.5 in the contest. I've got this number at 6. We just saw that Christian McCaffrey is out this week, but I don't think that's going to be an issue because we just saw what the 49ers did against that Jets rush defense. It was pretty ugly. So we have Jordan Mason, the lead back again. I don't have an issue with that. He's very downhill, quick moves, was very shifty. And I just think there's some inflation on this Vikings team. Like, yeah, did they look good last week against the Giants? Absolutely. But we got to realize that Daniel Jones basically handed them that game. He took the Giants out of it before the game even started. So we like the Niners in the spot. We're looking for some regression from Sam Darnold. We don't think he's going to have as great of a game. And we see when Kyle Shanahan is missing star players, his scheme is very Brock Purdy friendly. Find quick passes, quick reads. I mean, you would have thought that the Jets defense was playing a different game than the Niners last week on Monday Night Football. So we really like the Niners in the spot. We think they win big. And hopefully they can do what they did to the Jets. And speaking of the Jets, with our third pick of the week, we are selecting the Jets -3.5 on the road against the Titans. I know this is kind of ugly, but I think the biggest conclusion we took from that game leading into this one is I believe we'll have a emphasis and attention to detail on the defense this week. I think Saleh is really going to get under the boys on the defensive line. Listen, you guys just got your ass kicked all week. We really need you to step up in the spot. they got embarrassed on Monday Night Football. They truthfully did. And I think this is going to be a big resurgence week from the Jets. I think the defense steps up. I really think Aaron Rodgers had some very critical moments in that game where he made really good passes, a couple third down breakups that the Niners made really good plays on, but we saw Garrett Wilson is very evidently the number one targeted receiver on that offense. I think he has a very big day. Alan Lazard kind of finding his footing, finds the end zone twice. I don't know. I just think this number is wrong. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction to the Niners because if the Jets keep this close or even win this game, I think this number's 5.5. The Titans fell apart in the second half. Maybe it's coaching, maybe it's scheme, maybe it's Will Levis. They didn't look good. Regardless of what the box score says, the Titans did not look good. I think we're getting a discount early in the season. We're going to take a shot. Give us the Jets. Hopefully they make up for last week's blunder. Our fourth pick of the week, another 1 o'clock game. So we're having a lot of action at the 1 o'clock window. And this one may be tricky for a lot of you guys. Dynell and I, another chalk, Lions minus 7.5. I know. Baker Mayfield might have just had his best game of his career as Derek Carr did. Baker Mayfield might have just seriously had the best game of his career. He lit up that Washington Commanders secondary. But there is one thing that I saw that the Buccaneers struggle with, and that is defense against tight ends. And we have Sam Laporta lining up over the middle of the field for the Detroit Lions. He had kind of an okay game versus the Rams. I think he really gets going in the spot. I like Sam Laporta big this week. I think he finds his end zone. I think he hits his wide or his receiving prop. I really like the Lions in the spot. I think they win big. This feels too good to be true to take the Buccaneers at plus 7.5. I think when you scroll down this line and you see it, it's like, why are you almost being baited into taking this Buccaneers team? So I think it's too good to be true. Give us the Lions. I think they win big. They're minus 7.5 at home. We love Jared Goff at home. We love Jared Goff early in the season. He's a profitable quarterback to back, and we're going to back the Lions. And what makes us feel even more comfortable about the spot is Dan Campbell is extremely aggressive on fourth down. So middle of the field, opponent side of the field, he's going to go for it. And that's going to give us more opportunity to receive touchdowns instead of 3 points from the field goal. And we're going to need that in a larger spread. So give me the Lions, give us the Lions with our fourth pick for the week. And rounding it up, you guys knew we were not going to be able to stay away from this game. Give us the Cincinnati Bengals plus 5.5 against the Chiefs at the 4:25 window. I know what you're thinking. The Bengals looked like shit. They did. But that might have been the worst career game for Joe Burrow. That might have been the worst game the Bengals have had in 3 seasons. They were huge favorites against the Patriots. Rightfully so. I think we had them in our main survivor. Luckily, we have 2 of our 5 entries still alive because of the Seahawks. Everybody picked the Bengals to win that game. I mean, there was a handful of people that took a shot and a flyer on the Patriots, but the Patriots ran the ball for 170 rushing yards. The Bengals gave them the ball 3 times, and they still lost by the hair of their chin. I see an emphasis on the offense to get going, protecting the football, and that is the biggest thing in the NFL. If you do not protect the football, you do not win the game. So they had 2 really bad fumbles. They had a drop touchdown. I mean, what could have went wrong for the Bengals absolutely went wrong, and I am expecting a very big bounce-back game from Joe Burrow. I think the Bengals got embarrassed, as the Jets did. They got embarrassed in Week 1, and it's the beginning of the season. I think they have a lot of time to put their ducks in a row, and I see them keeping this game competitive. 4 of the last 5 games for the Chiefs and the Bengals have come down to a field goal either side. The exception was last year. That's it. I just think this is a really competitive spot for both teams. I think it's going to come down to a field goal. 5.5 seems generous. I think there's a little bit of overreaction to the way the Bengals performed in Week 1. Jamar Chase was kind of limited in that Week 1 game, and he's going to be much more leaned on and relied on for this game. I think this is going to be a game that both teams get up for, and it's going to be competitive. So we're going to take the 5.5 points with the Bengals and let's hope for the best in that one. Moving on to our survivor pick of the week. I don't have two. I have one that I'm very confident in that I'm going to be playing on both entries, both of the remaining entries, and I will give you my second best. However, we are going with the Baltimore Ravens facing the Las Vegas Raiders. That is, the Ravens have to win this game. They looked good last week. They lost literally by a toe to the Chiefs. They were a toe away from tying it up. I think they look good. I think they bounce back. I don't know if they cover that 9.5 that's in our contest. We stayed away from that. But I'm not going to try to thread the needle and take the Raiders and lay the Ravens with a survivor pick. But I do think the Ravens win. They're at home. They just seem like to be in a good spot. 2 years ago, the Raiders were kind of in the same spot versus the Ravens, and they beat them. So I think especially coming off of a primetime loss, they've had an extended rest. They played Thursday night week 1, and now they're waiting all the way until Sunday week 2 to play their next game. They've had rest. They've had time to prepare. I don't think Harbaugh is going to let them come out flat in this game. They definitely didn't come out flat in the first game. They got Mahomes. So they got a little bit out coached at the end of the game. I think Lamar Jackson made a couple errors, but you saw he was scrambling around in the pocket. That's another big thing. This offensive line cannot have another atrocious outing as they did in week 1. I think that's going to be the emphasis of their preparation. I think the offensive line cleans up the penalties. They are going against a decent pass rush with Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby, but I think they can suffice. So give me the Baltimore Ravens for our survivor. If you don't have the Ravens or you don't want to use the Ravens, the second suggestion I would make would have to be the Texans on Sunday Night Football against the Bears. We love the Texans at home. We saw the trends last year. Caleb Williams, a rookie, didn't even throw for 100 passing yards. Keenan Allen questionable. Rome Odunze questionable. I think this is a good spot for the Texans. For those of you guys who play moneyline parlays, Dynell and I both like the Texans at home. Not going to lay the number. It does seem like it would be a good spot for the Texans, but I think Caleb Williams may have a little bit of a bounce back game, not be so underwhelming. I mean, I think Chicago has defined an offensive touchdown. I mean, they're 1-0 this year without an offensive touchdown, so that's miraculous in itself. However, I do think the Texans are in a good spot for a survivor. So we've got the Ravens as our number 1 survivor pick, and we also have the Texans. However, I will be playing the Ravens in both of our entries. We have 2 of our 5 remaining. So that wraps this up. Again, our picks for the week, that is the Cowboys minus 6.5 versus the Saints, the 49ers minus 5.5 against the Vikings, the Jets minus 3.5 against the Titans, the Lions minus 7.5 against the Buccaneers, the Bengals plus 5.5 against the Chiefs. 4 favorites, 1 underdog. I told you guys at the beginning of this episode, if you like chalk, this is the episode for you. I apologize again for not having the video for this podcast for this episode. For those of you guys listening on other devices or other platforms, we are exclusive for video on YouTube and Spotify. So if you want to check the podcast out in video form, do so by checking out those platforms. You can also follow us on Twitter or X at @shredthespread_. Follow Dynell at Dyneezy, and you can follow myself on X at SVUCY2K. Stay up to date with the podcast. Be a friend, tell a friend, share, like, do everything you got to do. Let's have a profitable winning week. Get back on the board. And until our next episode, Dynell and I will be back together in video. We'll see you.